Before now, mysteries had never been discussed or uncovered. But now, Contumacious Ant and Atreya are back for a second season. The MO Podcast.
Hello and welcome all into the MO Podcast. As always, you're here with me, Contumacious Ant, and my lovely co-host.
Did you almost forget your name then?
Yeah, shut up. Fucking editing that. I didn't forget my name. I just was gonna go straight into
Ant.
it.
You were gonna say Ant, and then you decided I'm gonna say Contumacious as well as Ant, and okay. It's okay. It's easy done. Ant. I'm Atreya.
Yeah, we'll see how that gets edited. And today I've forgotten completely what we're talking about because I forgot my own name, so this is going to be bad. Right, today we're not talking about cults as just because we're not, because we had a debacle at the end of the last episode. So today we're talking about conspiracy theories. And what are you talking about?
I am talking about the gaming urban legend Polybius.
Ah, yes. I don't remember it well at all. I remember what you told me about it, but I am clueless as to this. But I was going to be talking about TBA, but I kind of almost got close to it because I'm going to be talking about the debacle that was the new Coke launch, and because Coca-Cola created the drink Tab Clear, that's TAB. So
I like what you did there.
I'm taking that as a win.
Cool.
So I've done that. But Polybius.
This is just like the cult's ending.
So why don't you start, Atreya?
Okay. All right. Polybius.
Get that in. Turn the knife.
Yeah, so Polybius was it's a conspiracy / urban legend, because if it's true, then it's a conspiracy. If it isn't, then it's an urban legend. It's one of those.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So apparently in Portland, Oregon, I always want to say oregano when I think of Oregon.
Oh, and you've had a go at me for not being able to pronounce.
But I didn't say oregano. That's the difference between me and you, Anne. I can think things without saying them. Tits pervert,
wow.
tits pervert, tits pervert.
Wow. Just wow.
So no, Portland, Oregon, 1981. Apparently, Portland was the place for games companies to test out their new games to see if they were shit or if people were going, yeah, this is pretty cool. So they had like a handful of arcades in Portland and on the outskirts, and games companies would send their games cabinets to these arcades, see how the game did, and if it didn't do so well, take it back, add some more stuff, basically kind of beta testing, as it were, back in the day.
Yeah.
Now apparently, randomly one day, this games cabinet appeared in a few arcade places, and it was called Polybius, and it was just in a plain black cabinet, wasn't really much to look at, like bluey green logo Polybius written on it, and it was like an abstract kind of fast action puzzle game. It had a series of flashing lights and like spinning shapes and like basically anything that would induce a seizure, you would think it was in this game. It was just the flashy lights was horrendous, and it had a lot of numbers that were just randomly placed in and around the flashing lights and the spinning patterns that didn't seem to have any kind of point to them and didn't seem to make an awful lot of sense. They were just random numbers flashing quickly in front of your face. The game was apparently made by a company called Zinislotion, which roughly, and I say roughly, translates to like senseless or sensory deprivation or to erase your senses, if you want to look into it like that.
Yeah.
So apparently this game, this Polybius, was really, really addictive and people were just sucked in. and people started experiencing side effects like sickness, nausea. They had night terrors, headaches. People were blacking out, having seizures, amnesia, and apparently sudden death.
Wow, okay.
One of the side effects. The side effect is sudden death.
Yeah, I mean, wow, okay. Sign me up. Witcher in real life.
So the theory is that people would get addicted to this game, and it was kind of some part of, MK Ultra.
Yes.
So that was a proven, program of experiments carried out on human beings, quite often illegally.
Without
their knowledge, yeah. And they were using LSD and psychological torture, brainwashing, and all that kind of thing. And that has been proved. That was by the CIA, and it's been proved since that was a real thing that was going on. So the theory is that Polybius was part of a government kind of undercover, mind-altering, brainwashing, mind control program, and it was an experiment to see if the government could actually control people via like subliminal messaging and flashing patterns and things like that. Not obviously because people were getting hurt. Just as soon as it came, a month later, it just vanished from all these arcades. There was no sign of the cabinets at all. There was nobody seemed to know anything about it. It wasn't in any magazines. It wasn't on the news. Apparently, eyewitnesses who from the time who had actually played it or seen it in the arcades said that the men in black came and took away the cabinets. I don't know, I mean, it could have been the repair guys.
Of course they did, yeah.
But yeah, so...
This is a repair guy. He just wanted to dress up for the day. he just wanted to feel good about himself wearing a suit, going to work, and he's now been labelled a man in black.
Do you know what, right? I read this story about somebody who had lived in Portland, and apparently they'd played Polybius and had no side effects and didn't see what was wrong at all with the game. But they said that they used to have guys come in that would like do maintenance on the machines. And one day these two guys came in dressed in black suits, right? And they said that they were... I love this. They said that they were repair guys, but they were dressed up as the men in black for Halloween.
Wow. I mean, they've got a couple, and there's their alibi straight away.
So, like if it was like the CIA or the FBI, can you imagine them walking in and then one going to the other, Terry, we didn't change out of our suits. People are going to ask questions like, oh, fuck it. We'll tell them we're in fancy dress. We'll tell them we're fancy dress as the men in black. Awesome.
But it's June.
We'll tell them we're on the way to a fancy dress party or something.
Yeah, we just don't have time to change after work. We're going straight from work.
Would it not have made more sense to tell people like, oh, we're not in fancy dress as the men in black. That's ridiculous. We're in fancy dress as the Blues Brothers. Clearly, there's two of us. We've got shades. We're in black suits. So, what do I have to whip out the harmonica right now? Because I will.
I mean, to be honest with you, these seem like subpar men in black, if they are men in black, when they're telling people they are men in black. Yeah. It's just...
Yeah, they're not very stealthy, are they?
No.
We pretend men in black. They'll definitely fall for that. Like, come on. There's so many other things. They could have said they were, like, fancy dresses, like, the mafia, or they were going to a Bugsy Malone show, or... There's so many things they could have said other than we're not really men in black. We just pretend men in black. Shh. Idiots. Like, but anyway, there's not actually any real proof that even happened. It's just, it was on a Reddit forum, and I really don't trust Reddit as far as I can throw it. I really don't like it at all.
No.
Having said that, my next information does come from Reddit. It is actually one of the biggest stories about Polybius. So apparently the whole Polybius thing disappeared and was never heard of again until 2006, when this guy called Stephen Roach, he posted on a Reddit forum saying that he'd set up the company that made Polybius, Zilloslotion, and he'd been commissioned to make a game by a Southern American company which was addictive. And he said that they didn't realise the dire effects that it could have. And shortly after a 13-year-old boy suffered a seizure from playing it, they disbanded the company because they didn't want to deal with the ramifications. However, my issue is that aside from the fact that Stephen Roach's post is incredibly rambling and boring, he managed to spell his own company's name wrong a few times. It's like, He also went on to say that one of the programmers had came up with the name Polybius because he studied Greek mythology at university. Right, well, Polybius was not a mythological character, so you wouldn't have come into Polybius in Greek mythology at all. You know, he was a philosopher, so good luck with that. Good cover story.
Yeah, I mean, maybe would have come across it, but...
I mean, Greek mythology, you're studying Perseus and Theseus and Odysseus and shit. Like,
yeah, but they do come from philosophers' tales, don't they? I mean, Plato came up with Atlantis, so, you know...
No, he didn't.
He
didn't come up with it. It was a real place, okay? It's where Hitler's living now.
Okay, yeah, sorry, and the lizard people.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
So anyway, so Stephen Roach. So this journalist, right, Kat De Silva, she did like a whole investigation into it because she really was interested in this and she wanted to find out if Polybius was actually a real game ever. So she looked into Stephen Roach and she found that him and his wife, well, the guy who was as close as she could get to a Stephen Roach, who seemed to be the same kind of guy, who lived in the same place, same age and everything as the guy on the Reddit forum. Him and his wife ran several behavioural modification schools for children. And apparently these schools were like seriously scandalous. Like the kids were like subjected to like massive physical and sexual abuse. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a push, though, to assume that it's the same person. And I guess even if you emailed him and said, hey, Stephen Roach, so I just saw this scandal about a behavioural modification school that's run by a Stephen Roach and his wife where they were sexually abusing the kids. Is it you? It's unlikely. He's going to reply going, yeah, no, I'm busted. You're right, it's me. He probably would just mark you as spam, right? And not reply. You wouldn't say that you were.
Yeah, indeed.
So there is an awful lot of like, Polybius never existed. Even the font that was used on the screenshot is a mixture of different fonts from different companies. It's not its own font. There's no ROMs for the game anywhere. There's no pictures of it anywhere. It's not in any media publication. But there are still people who have eyewitness accounts of, and they're absolutely certain that they've played this game. I mean, yeah, they could be lying, but the fact that they are saying, yeah, I played it and it was no big deal, it was kind of shit.
I think there's a quote from some historian that says when you hear eyewitness accounts in the courts from people that were there, then you do generally have to worry about the history of the world, because is it really true that what they're saying is, you know?
So there's this guy who runs a podcast called Skeptoid, and basically he is a skeptic and he sets out to debunk stories like this one, right? And he looked into Polybius. He did a lot of digging, he read a lot of newspaper articles, and he actually found that a lot of the factors in the story were true. So 2 kids did black out whilst playing games in Portland, and then a month after that the government were raiding arcades and removing the cabinets of the games that affected the kids. It's a known fact that the government used, well, and necessarily our government, but the American government used games as a training method for the military. There also was actually a real game called Polyplay, which was removed from every arcade that it was in. However, Brian Dunning, skeptic man, is still not convinced that Polybius ever existed because there was never any mention of it in any of the gaming magazines or anything. Now, my issue with that is that if it was a government project and it was only in, I don't know, like 3 arcades or something, it's not going to be in Nintendo Magazine or Games Master, is it? Because it's like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's in like, they made like, what, 5 copies of it or something. It's not going to be big news. The fact that it wasn't in the news afterwards, after kids started having issues and, you know, side effects and stuff, kind of bothers me. But at the same time, the government controls the media. So tinfoil hat firmly on. If it was a government experiment, then yeah, of course they're going to cover everything up, and they're not going to have...
Could have easily been hushed up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the other things that kind of have a little bit of a grain of truth is that people have died playing games. I mean, so we had one of the older newspaper articles was this Brian Mauro. He was 12 and he lived in Portland, and he was trying to beat the asteroids high score, and he played for over 28 hours to try and beat the record, and then he had to stop because he had crippling stomach pains and he had to quit. And he was kind of out of action for a while. He didn't die, but they think that it was brought on by the amount of coke he was drinking in the 28 hours. So
where the fuck was his parents?
His parents were there. They probably just thought, if he dies, he dies. We'll make some money out of this.
You know, the parents Ivan Drago now. Jesus Christ.
But
yeah, I mean, I suppose, yeah, that's one way to look at it. I mean, if he did die, then they would make some money out of it, one way or the other. And if he beat the record, they probably wouldn't have made any money out of it, because obviously it's asteroids, isn't it?
But they might have been in the paper at least. They might have got, I don't know, 20 quid for it or something. I mean, he didn't die, so it's irrelevant for the newspaper going, oh, this kid was playing games and games, you know, almost killed him. No. He drank 18 litres of Coke. That nearly killed him, as it does.
I think his parents' negligence nearly killed him, to be quite honest with you on that one.
Speaking of parents' negligence, right? So I don't know if you remember a while back, there was this Korean couple in the news, and they got addicted to a game called Prius Online. I think you've got to raise a little girl or something like that. It's an online game.
Yeah.
And they were addicted to it, and they were playing it in internet cafes, like, constantly. And they had a 3-year-old sat at home, and they got so addicted to this game, they left this 3-year-old on her own and just forgot to feed her, and she starved to death. And they were like, they were raising a child in an internet cafe, but they couldn't actually raise their own child, and the poor little girl actually starved to death, and they were put away for a very long time.
What's wrong with people?
I know, right? There was another Korean man who his mum nagged at him that he was playing games too much, and so he killed her and then went straight back to gaming.
So
it worked. There was another guy who played StarCraft for 50 hours straight before collapsing of a cardiac arrest and dying.
I mean...
And you've got Felicia Day, who, you know, the Guild fame, Supernatural. She's like my favourite person ever. She openly has talked about her World of Warcraft addiction, and that she actually went to rehab and had therapy to try and get over it because she was just addicted to it. So, yeah, games have caused issues for people in the past, but they're not specifically games that are meant to cause harm. Do you know what I mean? It's just people have got addicted to them. It's not it's not like that's what the game set out to do, like what they're saying is Polybius.
Exactly, yeah. No, I mean, like, gaming addiction was, I think, last year, maybe the year before, it was recognised as by The WHO, and not Roger Daltrey, but the World Health Organisation.
I was kind of thinking,
What's he doing? Who are you? Do, 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 do. I really want to know why you're playing Mario. No, the World Health Organization has actually identified that gaming addiction is an actual affliction, and it does affect people, and it is kind of treated in the same way as any addiction now, which is awesome, because I remember when I was younger, I did play like on a Saturday and Sunday, I would play a game for 18 hours straight.
Yeah.
You know, you just get into it, whether it's maybe not an online game because I was born with the
we didn't have the internet.
Yeah, the rotisserie fucking telephone. Never mind the yeah. God, I didn't know what a modem was. Jesus,
No,
that was
I
a
didn't
Greek
have
god.
I didn't have dial-up till I was about 15. I played Final Fantasy VII for 24 hours straight. My mum actually came in. It was like I played all the way through, and it was like I was due to go to school in like an hour. She came in at 7:00 in the morning, and I was still playing Final Fantasy VII. And she just unplugged my PlayStation and just took it away, and I was fuming because I hadn't saved it, because that was, you know, before the days of autosave.
Oh, autosave!
Oh, I was fucking livid, mate.
I would have done what that Korean did and
put it back on again afterwards.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think we've all been there, and we've played a game longer than we should have played it, and we've been looking at the clock going, shit, in an hour. I mean, it's one of them when you get into a game and you're like, oh, you look at the clock and you go, oh, I'll just have some lunch, and then you go through lunch, and then you go, oh, I'll just have some tea, and then get something really quick because it's nice and easy, and then you can get back to the game quicker.
Yeah, or just eat pizza at your desk.
Yeah, and then you start doing the weird maths of going, if I go to bed now, I could have 7 hours sleep, but 5 hours I'm good on, so I could have 2 more hours playing the game, and then you go, 2 hours I've got to be up for work, and then you just pick up the phone and go, I've got a bad cough today.
Yep, I feel that.
But yeah, I feel that this is a different kind of game that they've put out there to intentionally harm people and to see what the reactions are.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk of these guys coming in, the cabinet repairmen,
fancy dress
they
people.
were dressed like the Blues Brothers. They were coming in, and apparently they wouldn't take any money out of the Polybius machine, so they weren't there to empty it. They were just taking the data out of it. So it's almost like I can believe it, given MK Ultra was only, a decade before? It was in the 70s? Yeah. I can believe that they would do this, that the government would do. I seriously can believe that it's a thing, that they could be using it as some kind of, subliminal messaging. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that subliminal messaging in adverts and stuff was banned.
No, yeah, I mean, during the 80s, the Reagan administration, they did it quite a lot, didn't they, with their campaigning? They had subliminal messages in it, and they got into a lot of trouble for that. Yeah,
I mean, even now, even the adverts that aren't deliberately subliminal, like, fuck, I've had to stop watching Come Dine With Me because it turned me into an alcoholic. That bloody Jacob's Creek advert before it starts. I was finishing off a bottle a night just watching Come Dine With Me. I was like, whoa, this can't continue. Oh, no. Game of Thrones, I started drinking red. I've never drank red in my life.
Yeah.
I'm very easily manipulated. Honestly, if I got Polybius.
Adverts were the problem, yeah.
Yes.
Adverts were the problem.
So I can believe that it might have been a real thing, and with the amount of stuff that the government have covered up in the past, like MK Ultra, I can actually believe that it was a real thing. Even though there is no photos and there's no record, things are easily hushed up. Quite easy, especially in the 80s. It's not like, if it was now, it would be a lot harder to cover up. It would be on TikTok, it'd be on Instagram, Snapchat, everything, before anyone got a chance to get rid of it. But in the 80s, before we had any of this,
Wild West,
exactly,
it?
Yeah.
It was like anything goes.
It was incredibly easy to cover things up, but there wasn't any social media or the internet or anything. Word spread by word of mouth, and then all people had to do is say, that's bullshit, that was a fake. And then start spreading the fact that it never existed. And then you get what you've got now, which maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was a Mandela effect. Maybe people are going, do you remember that game? I think it was called Polybius. And then somebody else is thinking, well, I mean, I played a game called Poly something or other. But no, definitely Polybius. Yeah, no, I remember that. And like, that,
Yeah, that's the thing as well with that. I'm not going to say a difficult name to pronounce, but it's not Mario.
You don't remember it, do you, really?
Super Mario.
Yeah.
It's not something that's easily that comes off the tongue.
Yeah.
So the way that this was only just in Portland, Oregon, it wasn't widespread. You know, there wasn't accounts of this in Florida or wherever. They just did it in this specific place.
Yeah.
I can see this happening.
I can.
I'm about 84% on board with this one. I'll be honest with you. It's the closest you've got me, and I didn't mean to say it like that, but it's just come out, and I'm truly sorry. Which is what I usually say afterwards. But
but it is though, isn't it? It's like everybody, you know, people are quick to go, "Oh, it was definitely fake. It was definitely." Are you sure about that? Because it's one of the more possible conspiracies out there. Indeed,
out of a lot of them, and we look into a lot of them, and I think that's the one that makes a lot of sense, especially as well in the 80s. There was no epilepsy warnings on games like you get now, and there was no this game is like your Assassin's Creed warning where it's like this game is made up of people from multiple faiths, and we do try and look at historical accuracy, but there's some artistic licensing, etc. It was just like boom, the colours just came on straight away, and you were if you had epilepsy, you were on the floor in 30 seconds.
Basically.
And, it was the Wild West, and
I would really like for this one to be true because it's a proper cool story. And actually, oh my god, I've looked everywhere for like a little like Polybius arcade cabinet model because I fucking want one on my desk.
You really want one, don't you?
I really want one. And apparently, Numbskull
Just
Designs.
Gonna get Dave to play it, aren't you?
I might just get him to make one. You can't buy them anywhere, although. Numbskull Designs have got a Kickstarter at the moment where they're making, because they make miniature game cabinets, and they've got like Pac-Man and Kong and all that kind of thing you can already buy. And they're about £100. They're quarter scale. They're so cute. But they're also USB hubs. So also handy to have. And so they've got the Polybius one on a Kickstarter at the moment. And I think they're looking to ship the first ones out in July this year. Oh my god, I want one so bad. And Dave's like, why don't you just get one? I was like, because it's £100. I can't pay £100 for a USB hub. I can't justify that, no matter how cool it looks. And then I'm seriously hoping that he buys me one for Christmas.
You really don't know him, do you?
I know. I'm never going to see one ever in my. But my dad likes building things, you know, with wood and painting them and stuff. So I might just say, Dad, can you make me one of these? Just get him to make me one. Yeah,
exactly. You just need to, You just put a Raspberry Pi in it and
exactly right.
Build it around it. Yeah, it's,
I would love it. Honestly, it's so cool. It looks so cool. I love retro stuff, and I think it would be amazing if this story. I mean, it wouldn't be amazing for the people that are still having nightmares and amnesia. Although if they've got amnesia, they can't remember playing it. So
yeah, how would they know?
Exactly. In fact, maybe that's why. Nobody can remember anything about the game. Everyone that's played it's forgotten about it. There we go. Boom, solved it.
Done and dusted.
Solved another one.
It existed, but people don't remember it.
Yep, built-in amnesia.
And it was just the Men in Black were going to a Halloween party.
Maybe they actually were. Maybe they were just stopping off in the arcade to just collect the data on the way, like two birds, one stone, innit?
Maybe. And maybe they've been to another place and they've gone, someone had said, you know what? You look like that Will Smith film that's not going to be out for another 20 years. But the Blues Brothers that was out last year, you don't look anything like them.
I just don't get it. I'm just like, oh.
It's like the Blues Brothers was what was it? 86?
Something like that.
Maybe, but they were doing the skits on Saturday Night Live for 2 years before that. So,
but nobody
it was there.
Like, I don't understand why they were like, they would instantly go Men in Black. Like, I would be like, oh god, those guys look like the mafia. Stay away from them. First
day of the job, weren't it? Like, and that's
Clearly.
it. They just panicked and went, "We're not Men in Black.
We're just pretending.
We're going to fancy dress. Come on, Brian, get the data. Let's go."
Noobs, love it.
Terrible.
So yeah, that's Polybius, and I'm glad I've almost convinced you. Yes.
Yeah, very close to that one. That's a good one. That
I'm gonna make you a tinfoil hat because I feel I'm close.
Wow. Okay. Let's not get excited.
So what's yours?
So
Do tell.
now it's not that much of a conspiracy theory. There is a conspiracy theory involved in it, but this is the story about the debacle that was New Coke. Now,
That's not Coke, is it, Stella?
that's not a can of Coke, but in April 23rd, 1985, Coca-Cola stopped existing. Now, it stopped existing just for a few days, really. For less than 2 months, the Coke, as you know and love today, just didn't exist. You couldn't buy it anywhere.
No!
Exactly. I don't drink the crap, so I don't care. But if it was Stella now, oof,
No,
there'd
I
be
love
words.
Coke. I'd be stuck with Pepsi. Ooh.
Well, you see, now, this is the whole thing. The reason... Basically what happened, a little bit of a backstory here. Coke was created in 1886 on the 8th of May, and it was kind of introduced as a medicinal drink to be a substitute for morphine.
It's clear. It's still a substitute for morphine. What?
Yeah,
I've never
exactly.
drank Coke in my life and had the same kind of effect as morphine.
The reason being is back then you could put whatever you wanted in it, and it was named after the two main ingredients, which was Coke, legitimately coca leaves, and cola, which was cola nuts, which gave the caffeine to it. And now, for over 70 years, you could get a bottle of Coke for only 5 cents. From 1886 up until 1959. You only were paying 5 cents for a bottle of Coke. Now, that time span is massive, especially with the inflation and the depression went on. There was 2 world wars, there was social uprising, and it was still only 5 cents. The reason being is because in 1886, the bottling rights were sold for $2 to two gentlemen called Benjamin Thomas and Joseph Whitehead. Basically because the guy who owned Coke at the time thought, no one's ever going to buy a bottle of Coke, so I don't really care.
Oh.
Now, the reason being to this is because the way soda drinks were dispensed around at this time was like McDonald's. You just went in and asked for a glass, and they had a soda fountain, and basically they just sold the syrup to places, and they'd mix it in with water and other stuff, and you'd have it in your soda fountain, and then there you go. But these two geniuses, Benjamin Thomas and Joseph Whitehead, thought, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bottle it. So what they started doing is selling bottles in supermarkets and stuff. And the reason why it went so long is because there was no actual end date on this contract. So in theory, today, bottles of Coke should still be sold for like a nickel, really.
We need to write to them immediately.
Yeah, I mean, they got around it, obviously. I mean, another part of the reason was that the vending machines only accepted 5 cents. So, because Coca-Cola owned 85% of all the vending machines in America in the 50s, they didn't want to kind of mess with the fact that 5 cents, a nickel, is just one coin. They thought if people had to use 2 coins, or if the machine wouldn't give correct change, then no one would buy it. So they kept it at this price for so long. So much so that in the 50s, Coca-Cola actually went to the Treasury and said to them, can you not just make a 7.5 cent coin?
We're almost bankrupt.
So they were selling their product right under, but one of the ways they overcame this, that 1 in 9 bottles in the machine was empty. And so 8 people would come and go and get a lovely bottle of Coke, and then the 9th person would come along and get an empty one.
No way.
So he'd have to put another nickel in it. And this raised the average price to 5.76
That's
cents.
horrible.
I know. Yeah, it's just...
That's just mean.
But that's the way they try to get around it. And then eventually they phased out the 5-cent machine, replaced all the machines at great cost to them, and they started putting the ability to be able to give change in the vending machines, and then it was phased out. Pepsi was created in 1893, and it was called Pepsi because it was advertised to relieve dyspepsia, which I didn't know, which is the indigestion.
I kind of think it causes it.
Well, that's what I'd think, to be honest with you. But who knows what they were putting in it at that time.
True.
So after the Second World War, Coke had a 60% market share of the soft drink market. But by 1983, this had fallen to just 24%. So they were kind of sweating and they didn't know what to do. And they were always losing the taste tests to Pepsi because people preferred the sweeter taste of it. So they came up with Project Kansas. Now, like most secret projects, this was littered with war references, and you can actually see the actual documents that they have in the Coca-Cola Museum, which is in Atlanta.
Can you imagine if you were a Russian spy? You've come across these documents and you're like, we hit the jackpot here. Wait till I get back. Oh, my bosses are going to love me. And then he gets back to the Soviet Union and the bosses go, great. So you've got us a recipe for Coke, but we still don't know where the arms factories are in America. Good going.
He's like, well, I tried. But it actually compared this Project Kansas to the D-Day landings in Normandy, and it had quotes from Churchill and FDR in it, and one of the sentences was, "Project Kansas, quite simply, cannot fail."
Wow.
And what they actually did was they changed the recipe of Coca-Cola. They actually made it sweeter. Now, they used corn syrup to do this. Previously, it had been 100% sugar as their sweetener. But now, they were using corn syrup and that fructose to sweeten it. And it performed really, really well in taste tests. People were loving it. And when they were told it was a Coca-Cola product, they loved it even more because it's something that, very American. Yes. Yeah.
Brand security.
Exactly. And this is part of their downfall with it. Due to bottling issues and the way they priced up their syrup tariffs, and the fact that they actually launched Cherry Coke at this time, the bottling factory said, we can only do one or the other. We cannot make the original Coke and this new Coke that you want us to make. And they actually went and tried to sue Coca-Cola to make them make this choice. So Coca-Cola went, right, fine, we'll go with a new one. They retired their old recipe. They actually put it in a bank vault and left it to gather dust and said, that's it, we're not using that anymore. When a reporter asked whether Diet Coke would be changed, assuming that new Coke is a success, Robert Guzetter, who was the CEO of Coca-Cola at the time, curtly replied, no, and I didn't assume that it will be a success. This is a success.
Wow.
Never have words come back quickly to bite someone in the ass. Basically, Pepsi were so sure that Coke had dropped the ball on this that the day after the announcement, they gave every worker the day off. And they took out a full-page advert saying, after 87 years of going at it, eyeball to eyeball, the other guy just blinked. And
oh, bless them.
Yeah, they were loving this because they didn't need to change their recipe. That they stuck to it. I mean, maybe they would have changed it if this wouldn't have happened, but who knows? But because Coke changed their recipe, they were basically saying they're not confident in their product that they're selling. They have to change it.
Yeah.
And it started out really well. Sales in New York, Miami, and Detroit went really well. All of McDonald's changed all their soda fountains over to the new Coke, and sales were up by 8% over the previous period of the last year. But as the late great Nina Simone sang, Mississippi Goddamn, the South started to revolt. Now, Coca-Cola is a product of the South. Their headquarters are in Atlanta. They are very, very ingrained in the Southern, kind of attitude. Only a few weeks after the launch of this new Coke, their complaints, they were inundated with complaints. They were taking 1,500 calls a day.
Jesus.
Of complaints, and overall they had 40,000 calls and letters sent into headquarters.
Get a grip of yourselves. Is there not more important thing? You're ringing up to complain. It's like these people that ring into BBC to complain about, all their TV shows. It's like Amanda Holden's dress. It's like, get a life.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, I think this is more about the American psyche than it is about a blunder on Coke's part. But they wrote letters addressed to the chief dodo, and one person wrote in asking for the autograph of the dumbest chief executive in American history.
Wow.
Yeah, and then Coca-Cola, they hired a psychiatrist and asked them to listen into the calls, and they came back and said it's like they're discussing the bereavement of a family member, the death of a family member. It's not like you've changed this recipe. They're really like upset about this.
That's the most bizarre thing to do. Like, if you're like, why is our product failing? We'll get a psychologist in to listen into the calls. Like, the psychologist has just got off the phone and go, yeah, they don't like it.
I know, but this is how bad Coca-Cola executives were panicking. They were being inundated with all these calls and everything, and they just didn't have a clue on what to do. They didn't know that this one change would have just seismic connotations to them. There's Thomas Oliver's book, The Real Coke, The Real Story, claims that it wasn't really about Coca-Cola. It was more about the continuation of the Civil War and the North versus South thing, because Coke was headquartered in Atlanta and Pepsi was headquartered in New York State. And the fact that John Pemberton, who originally invented Coke, he was actually a general in the Confederate Army. So there may be a little bit of them against us about this.
I know, but can't they just be like, I mean, yeah, okay, he was,
Just get over it.
He was in the Confederates, but it's just a drink. Like, drink it if you don't like it. Drink it if you do. Like,
this is how far but yeah, in 1986, like, scientists had discovered the hole in the ozone layer, and the TWA flight 847 had been hijacked. But rather than bother about all that kind of nonsense, Gay Mullins decided to set up the Old Soda Drinkers of America. And he one of his quotes was, "They have taken away my freedom of choice. It's un-American." Kind of forgetting that it's a private enterprise and they can do whatever the fuck they want and not beholden to anyone or anything.
It's not a fucking staple food or drink item. Like, it's not taking away your human rights.
That's the thing. And the thing is about this guy, he organised leafleting campaigns. He organised the people that joined this campaign to complain to Coca-Cola. He also filed a class action lawsuit against Coke. I mean,
he wants to get himself a real job.
Exactly. Regardless, this class action lawsuit was thrown out in less than a week, with the judge declaring, "I prefer Pepsi anyway." Over it is neither here nor there. The damage of him actually bringing this lawsuit and getting the publicity out there is one of the factors. But the problem is that Gay Mullins didn't even drink Coca-Cola. He was invited to do a blind taste test by the Seattle Times, and he couldn't pick out the true Coca-Cola. He actually picked out Royal Coke as the real one.
Dick.
Yeah, so he was a bit of a shyster, to be honest with you. But 79 days after the launch of New Coke, it was renamed just plain Coke, and the bank vault was opened. They got out the old recipes, and classic Coke, as it was then known, made a return.
I think it still is, isn't it? It still
I think it is known as classic
Coke on the cans.
Yeah, and this actual announcement that they would bring in classic Coke back prompted ABC to interrupt their regular scheduled programming, which was General Hospital, with a breaking news segment.
Oh my God!
That's how much it was ingrained in these people's psyche. Now, the conspiracy part of this is that because Coca-Cola were losing so much in the soda market, that they actually did this on purpose. They put out an inferior product to get people all riled up to try and make gains back. And
Makes sense.
to be honest with you, they were outselling Pepsi in the first 6 months. They once they brought Classic Coke back, they substantially started outselling, and within 6 months of them bringing it back, they were selling at a rate of 2-1.
So if it
Pepsi.
was a conspiracy, it was a well thought out one that worked.
But this is it, and what one of the Coca-Cola executives actually turned around and said, "We're not that dumb, but then again, we're not that smart."
I read that quote. It's brilliant.
Yeah, so I don't really know whether, I think they just decided to change, and it was obviously jumped on. There's also a theory that it was because doing this they could remove the coca extract that they still had, that they were still putting in the drink because of Reagan and his war on drugs. And I don't think it is that. It's that simple. I just think they kind of dropped the ball on this one and fudged up.
Yeah, what I reckon as well.
But it's a cute little story that even though for 79 days Coke didn't exist as we know it, and because of, I'm not going to say Gay Mullins, but because of people who are entrenched in their own thoughts and in the way, the good old days and how it should be from my youth, actually forced them into changing back.
It is pretty nuts.
Yeah, and I think it's a cautionary tale of, like, if something's selling well, then if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yes. Yeah, it clearly is. Like, I think it would have been an amazing ploy if it was done deliberately. But I do kind of feel like that they were like, oh, we've been like this for so long. Like somebody in marketing they were new and they wanted to get their foot in the door and they were like, I've got this great idea. Let's make a new Coke. And they didn't really test it properly. And afterwards they were like, well, everybody hates it and it's shit. So we're going to have to go back to the old Coke. Where is the head of PR and marketing? That new guy, the one that's green as grass? Chuck him out on his arse immediately. Give him his P45 now.
Where's that bank vault key? Fucking hell. Where have I put it?
I love that you can go to the vault in the museum.
I just threw it in the sea.
I was so sure of this new recipe. No, but it's like, have you tried Coke? Well, because of the sugar tax, like when you go to Mackey's now, they give you Coke and you have to pay extra for the proper Coke with the sugar in. You get like the sugar-free Coke standard. It's shit. It is horrible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a massive fan of carbonated drinks, as I'm sure everybody knows. But if I do have a drink, I prefer cherry Coke or cherry Pepsi. I prefer
like
Pepsi to Coke, but if I had a choice, I'd take cherry every time.
Yeah, cherry Coke's lovely. So's vanilla Coke, actually.
Yeah. Cherry's about as far as I push the boat out. But you did say like they didn't test it properly, and this it comes back to the problem of taste tests, because even after they brought back classic Coke, new Coke was still performing really well in taste tests. And the thing with taste tests is you only get like half a cup, you only get a little bit.
Yeah.
So you drink it and you go, oh, that's quite nice, yeah. It's not the fact that you're going to be drinking it for days. You're not in the supermarket and going, oh, what do I want to drink? Well, if I buy a bottle, like a 2-litre bottle or whatever, I'm going to be drinking that today, tomorrow, and the next day.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where they fell down with it, because it was too sweet to be drank over a period of time. If you just get in a little taste test and you're in the parking lot of some fucking Walmart and you're dying for a drink anyway, you're, oh yeah, that is quite nice. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to having something that's going to be drank over a period of days, it can get a bit too sweet and a bit too...
Yeah.
So this was the problem with the flawed taste tests that they banked everything on, because new Coke did so well in these taste tests. They were like, oh my God, this is going to be brilliant. But they didn't factor in the fact that it's a longevity thing. It's not just a one sip and gone. They
should have made a batch alongside the classic Coke and put them both on the shelves in the supermarket. Yeah, people probably would have bought new Coke just out of, oh, it's new.
Interest,
yeah. But then after a few weeks, they would have had a realistic indication of whether or not people didn't like it, because they would stop buying it, you know?
Exactly. And if they weren't such idiots about their pricing structure and if they hadn't pissed off the bottling people, they may have been able to launch these two keep the old classic Coke going and new Coke at the same time, and then been able to do that. Mm-hmm. But I think they were just kind of up their own arse with how well it performed in taste tests and went, no, we don't need that old one anymore. And they forgot about the South's memory and how cantankerous
they'll never get over the Civil War.
No, Jesus Christ. I don't even think they'll get over Darwin, theory of evolution. No. Jesus, never mind anything else.
I mean, I guess in comparison though, so imagine if like the tea industry in general, say if there was one company that overseen all of the brands of tea in our country, right? Say if, you know...
Be careful now if you're on dodgy ground.
Exactly. This is my point, right? Say if the master of tea, we'll call him that, right? Say if he went, right, we're not going to do Yorkshire tea anymore. The Southerners would be like, that's all right, we only drink Tetley and PG Tips and Earl Grey anyway. But the North, there'd be fucking riots. There'd be houses burned down, people would be storming Buckingham Palace, the Houses of Parliament.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. If they discontinued a tea, do you know what? I used to think Yorkshire tea was grown in Yorkshire.
I think just Yorkshire people, just people up north, just prefer Yorkshire tea in general. It could be it could be grown in London. They'd still drink it because it's called Yorkshire tea.
Yeah.
Where is it grown?
Yeah. I'd assume a hot climate.
I mean, we have greenhouses with heaters.
Okay, now I'm seeing the folly of my remarks there. That may be an edit.
I literally thought that it was at this point where you were going to say something to me like, don't be so ridiculous. It needs like a certain amount of sunlight and it can't just be grown in a greenhouse. Don't be so ridiculous. I'm actually right. I love that. Woo! First time for everything. This is exciting.
Whoa, I never said you were right. I mean, them words never came out of my mouth.
They kind of did.
So wind your neck in a little bit.
They kind of did.
Right. But
we'll ask
tea was first grown in India, surely.
I mean, oh yeah.
Or am I still under the belief that all tea comes from India? And I see. Let's stop this conversation because I'm coming across a dumbass. Not for the first time, but I'm really worried now that.
I haven't even got my phone on me to even check. Well, I know I've got my computer right in front of me, but my keyboard's very clicky. You know, I'm still going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Just deal with the clicks.
I am. Where is tea grown?
Right.
India.
Right. Okay. But where is Yorkshire
Asia,
tea?
Africa, South America. Oh.
All right. Okay. So.
Where is
Yorkshire tea comes from farms in India and Africa.
Boom! I am not simple. Oh, you don't know how much of a win that is for me.
Yeah, but have you seen the Yorkshire tea that they do where it's jam and toast and biscuit?
Please, no. Please.
Minging, absolute minging.
That sounds like an Aldi special, that.
It's horrible.
I've just ripped it off.
It was horrible. So, I don't know why it's called Yorkshire tea because it's not grown in Yorkshire, but maybe they only have Yorkshire people go and pick it up. Yorkshire pilots, Yorkshire salesmen, Yorkshire delivery drivers. Everyone in the warehouse that packs it must be from Yorkshire.
The boats that import it are built in Yorkshire.
And they're sailed by Yorkshire captains. From now on, that is how I'm going to picture Yorkshire tea being produced. In fact, even the farmers in Africa have been told that they specifically have to speak with a Yorkshire accent. They're not employed unless they can do convincing Yorkshire accent.
They all have to watch like a montage of Sean Bean before they get the job.
They have to convincingly say, bastard.
This is how you speak now.
Yeah, that definitely it should be a thing. And if it isn't, change your website, Yorkshire Tea, so that it reflects that anyway. Just lie. Indeed.
No one simply marches into India. Yes, and on that bombshell, that was the story of Polybius.
Well, close enough.
I'm going with it. And New Coke.
Yeah.
And next week, here we go. We are going to be talking about cryptids.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it right. And I am going to be talking about the Banshee.
Ooh.
A legendary Irish thing. And what are you going to be talking about?
Well, now you've reminded me of something. Oh, I might change.
Oh, now here we go. See?
Okay, so I'm either going to do mermaids or I'm going to do gnomes. It's going to be one or the other. I know
they're gnomes.
I know they're very, very different.
Small. Oh, right. Yeah, that as well.
I know that gnomes are very small. That's my podcast.
Yeah, there you go. That's all I could be asked researching about them.
They're small and they make atrocities in your garden.
That just sounds like some kind of dirty protest at the bottom of the garden, if I'm honest.
I just don't trust people with garden gnomes. I think they're Stepford.
Right, okay, the fishing ones and all that, right, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And they actually paint them as well.
I know.
Which is,
And they have like little communities, like little gnome communities in their garden, and I just don't trust those people at all.
But they're retired. Come on,
it doesn't.
They're
only retired because they're androids.
Only retired because they have been forcibly retired. Like, Joan, stop fucking talking to the gnomes. You're going home.
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm just saying, if you cut one of their heads off, they would be like, those women in Austin Powers, the fembots.
Yeah.
Take their bras off. Honestly, there's pistols on their nipples. Don't take an old lady's bra off, for God's sake. I'm joking. Honestly, nobody take any old lady's bras off, for fuck's sake. I don't want to be that person.
I'm sorry, I just passed out when you said bras.
Stop thinking about old ladies' boobs. Get a grip of yourself. Not like that.
Oh, right. We need to end this podcast quite soon because my desk has just broke again.
Oh, God, kill me now.
Anyway, so on them multiple bombshells, we have been the MO podcast. I've been Conspiracies Ant.
And I have been Atreya.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we shall see you all hopefully next week.
The MO podcast. The MO podcast. The MO podcast.